Hello and welcome to the Business Post podcast with me, Danny McConnell.
And me, Peter O'Dwyer.
Now, we have been very lucky with the calibre of guests that we've had here in terms of Irish level chief executive country heads. But this week, we have a global chief executive, Jim O'Leary, who is the chief executive of Penta, which is a relatively newly formed PR and communications and, I suppose, intelligence agency as they've built themselves. You know, this guy, has a track record, fourth generation Irish as he describes himself, but, came from Edelman, which is probably the biggest PR agency, which has a kind of a presence here in Ireland as well. But, he was courted into Penta, announced, I think his appointment was only announced in May of this year, but he's been on a sort of a whistle-stop tour of the world since taking office. But Ireland being on the list, I suppose it's tied in with the EU presidency, but he was in town in the last few days. Our aviation and business correspondent Ellie Donnelly sat down with him. But Peter, this is a very interesting interview. This is a very interesting guest for us to have someone who not only has, I suppose, an Irish perspective, but this global perspective, and he's mixing with the biggest and the best. He's talking about being at Davos and all these kind of places. This is a fascinating kind of guy to get for us, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like they're operating at that very top level corporate in terms of who they advise. It's the likes of JP Morgan and Microsoft, Google, like the real big hitters of the US corporate world. What I thought was interesting was that he's new into the role, as we'll hear in the interview. There's an awful lot of talk about AI and data and what they want to do with like being a company of the future. Yet the very first thing he does when he comes into the role is he's on that whistle-stop tour that you describe, including Ireland. It's that kind of marrying, as they talk about, the modern AI data-led driven insights, as they say, but also it's press into flesh. It's getting to know people. It's getting to know his own teams, but also getting to know existing and, as he says, prospective clients. And I suppose in that job, in the PR world, that's a huge amount of it. It always will be, no matter how kind of technologically advanced it becomes.
Yeah, and in terms of Ireland, I suppose Penta took over or bought out Hume Brophy, which was a very famous PR agency here in town.
Yeah,
and they have added Leo Varadkar to their ranks as well. And I think he was alluding to the fact that having spent time, but the value of having a former Prime Minister in Leo Varadkar on their books obviously shows at the level with which they're looking to aim at.
Yeah, so he touches on that and that kind of model in the interview with Ellie, where he talks about not only wanting that kind of tech-first platform that they can utilize, but also having experts and advisors who have actually kind of walked the walk, who have been in the middle of it, not just in advisory capacity right the way through their career. They want people who have been decision makers, who have been at the forefront of regulation or policy or politics or whatever. And you can see that for somebody like Leo Varadkar. So he talks a big game about wanting to grow the business. And I think
he wants to double it.
He wants to double it, which seems pretty incredible. He says there's scope in Ireland to grow as well. Not everybody is obviously going to be a Leo Varadkar type hire, but they seem to want to have these kind of flagship individuals in each of their markets. And Leo, I suppose, is the one here.
And interesting, I suppose Ellie was very good at, and listeners will hear about this, in terms of asking around AI. AI is everywhere, and we're hearing in recent days about its impact in jobs at, say, Microsoft and elsewhere. And he says, he's very honest in terms of saying it will have a huge impact. There will be more change in the next 5 years than we've seen in the last 5 decades. And when someone of his caliber is saying that, you have to sort of sit back and take notice.
Yeah, that was a line that jumped out to me as well. I kind of find it hard to envisage it. That is such seismic
it's a bold
change.
Statement, yeah.
And when you think about what that sector and job is, you can certainly see an evolution of it. You can see a lot of change. It's kind of hard to see the fundamentals of it changing to the extent to which
because it's such a people-to-people business.
Yeah, and it ultimately is. It's crisis management, as he discusses. It's lobbying. It's dealing with policy. That isn't going to change.
Yeah.
I think the pace is going to change. And what he talks about in the interview, which is interesting, is about the idea of seeing around corners. Like, not only he talks about the model of PR and advisory being a reactive model that has been built, and that's a relic of times gone past now, that everything's moving so quickly, the stakes are higher, the risks are greater, that they want to be more proactive with their clients, which is where all the data and stuff comes in. So you can certainly see change in it, but because of the nature of the business, I personally find it hard to envisage that degree of change.
Indeed. Well, listen, let's get into the interview. But before we do, as always, I want to just remind you of our Leadership Awards, which are happening in November in the Mansion House. Nominations are open. We've had a huge number of nominations already in. But if you feel like you want to nominate your boss or someone who you think has done a great job, either as a chief executive or a chief information officer, you can go to leadership-awards.ie. That's leadership-awards.ie. Get your entries in, and we look forward to seeing you in the Mansion House on November the 12th. But now it's time for our interview with Ellie Donnelly and Jim O'Leary of Penta, and we'll be back for the post-match analysis after this.
Jim O'Leary, you are very welcome to the Business Post podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am delighted to be here.
Now, you took over as Chief Executive of Penta in May, so you're still quite new in the role. We're here to discuss that and much more over the next while.
Indeed, I'm a veteran of an entire month on the job.
Super. How bad could it go?
Yeah.
Listen, first of all, you're American, but with a name like that, I'm assuming there's an Irish connection.
There is indeed an Irish connection. I am a proud fourth generation Irish American. I am married to an Aaron McCarthy. I have a son named Aidan and a daughter named Maeve, so we're proudly Irish.
Very good. And do you get over here much at all, or is it the first time?
Fact, no, I've been over here a number of times. In fact, my wife and I got engaged here in the homeland.
Fantastic. That's great. I suppose your background then, how did you get into the top job at Penta? Tell me.
Yeah, sure. So I've been doing this for a long time now. Mm-hmm. And most recently, I was global president, so I was running Weber Shandwick's business units around the world. Weber Shandwick is one of the largest global agencies, and I started off as the CEO for the North America business, and then ultimately ended up running North America and had oversight for Europe and Asia and Latin America and all the regions. Prior to that, I was running Edelman's U.S. business, Edelman being the largest PR agency in the world and Weber Shandwick being the second. So it's been a great journey to get here, and I am very excited to be here because the thing about Penta that is so unique and remarkable is that about half of our company is an intelligence business, in addition to an advisory business. And that's something that, in our industry and in our profession, nobody else has. So that's why I'm so excited to be here.
So we'll touch on the intelligence bit later on, but I suppose, how does this role now differ from previous roles that you have? I mean, you're CEO now, the buck stops with you. Yeah. Talk me through that.
Sure. Well, I feel like for my last couple of roles, the buck has probably stopped with me. As the global president of Weber Shandwick, and similarly, prior to that, running the North America business. I think the main shift right now is that I'm very much focused on doubling the size of this business. And I'm doing so based on the fact that the world today and tomorrow is just so much different than it was in decades past, right? And so what does that mean, like, more simply, right? It means that, in our profession, and, Penta is a leading modern corporate advisory company. And so what that means is we, help our clients navigate through the most high stakes issues. And typically those issues are at the intersection of reputation and culture, or reputation and policy and politics, or reputation and technological developments, and reputation and business, obviously, right? And in the past, the way that many agencies help clients navigate high stakes situations in those areas was very reactive, right? And it was, frankly, the model that has been built to service that type of reactive work is kind of like a remnant of an era of an old era. We're in a new era, and in this new era, our clients expect much more and different than they did in the past, right? And so if I'm if Penta is helping a CEO of one of the largest companies in the world navigate a high stakes political issue, a high stakes financial issue, right? A high stakes crisis, the reason that our clients increasingly are choosing us over the more legacy-oriented agencies is because not only do we have people with decades of experience navigating the various situations that they are dealing with, a situation with labor, a situation with a cyber attack, a situation with an activist investor, right? A situation with political ramifications across borders. We have those experts and advisors here at Penta. And we also have the experts and advisors in whatever sector the client that we're working for is in, whether that's healthcare or technology or defense or energy or financial services, typically the highly regulated industry sectors. But in addition to all of that, which, we're not alone in having, what we are very unique in having is, as I said, half of our business is an intelligence business. And so we have the most sophisticated tools, technology, and data that's powering all of our advisory work in a way that is fully integrated. So that when our clients come to us and say, we need help doing an IPO, or, we need help with this transatlantic situation or cross-border trade situation, not only can we bring to the table advisors with decades of experience doing just that, but those advisors are powered by the most sophisticated AI platform in the business. And in addition to that, they're armed with more data and intelligence, as are our clients, than they can get anywhere else. And it's that combination that's why so many of our clients come to us to help them deal with kind of the highest stakes situations of the day.
Chat to me a bit more about the AI side of the business. How is Penta using it? What for? And what kind of impact do you see AI having on the PR world going forwards?
Yes. So I think it's safe to say that in the, call it PR industry, we are going to see more change in the next 5 years than we saw in the previous 5 decades. And I say that without exaggeration or hyperbole. And it's not going to be driven entirely by AI, but it's going to be driven a lot by AI. And so what we're going to see, and are already seeing, is that what our clients expect from us, again, is much more proactive than reactive, is much more data-driven and technology-enabled. And for specific examples of that, I'll give you 3. Now increasingly, you're probably familiar with the term like SEO, search engine optimization. Well, now with AI models being the place that many people go to get their information even before going to do a Google search, there's the concept of generative engine optimization, GEO. But even that is a bit more narrow. What I would say is the desire for information to need to be machine readable. Essentially, like if everyone's going to go to ChatGPT or Claude or one of those first to get information, then as a company or as a brand or even as a political leader, you need to make sure that whatever is coming up about you in those searches is reflective of the truth and what you and the reality. And so we have an entire business unit that is built around helping clients do exactly that, right? Helping our Fortune 100 companies do that. That would be one example. Another example would be the demand for what a lot of our clients are calling like an active intelligence platform of their own, which essentially means if you're one of the world's largest companies and you want to know what's going on around the world related to your company, your competitors, and the key issues that are kind of maybe even battlegrounds or competitive areas between you and those companies, you want to know in real time what's being said in traditional media, what's being said in social media, and then you want to take all of that and model it so that you can predict what's going to happen in the future before it happens, so that you can either get ahead of issues or you can capitalize on opportunities. Right? And those are just a few examples of very specific things that AI is already helping our clients do. But the fundamental piece that is maybe even more important to think about is that right now, most traditional agencies and firms, including our competitors here, in Dublin and in Europe and across the world, they typically will rely much more on people and people's relationships than they will on people and people's relationships combined with the AI. Mm-hmm. And so I am not by any means downplaying the importance of people and their relationships in our business, because that is important. And, the role of judgment and instinct and creativity and all of these things are only going to be at a premium. But you need that, and you need an AI spine that powers that in a way that increases speed, scale, precision, sophistication to a degree that previously was just impossible, right? And the reason that you need all of this is because the world is arguably more complex than it's been in a long time. And the role of being a leader, whether that's a business leader or a head of state, is arguably more challenging. The data reinforces this. We've seen, the turnover of CEOs increasing in previous years. Expect that to be the case this year. And the reason for that is because as a leader, you have to do everything you always had to do. Manage supply chain or capital allocation or business operations. But in addition to that, you have to navigate the main challenges of the moment. In this moment, I think the big two that people often will talk about are AI transformation and the backlash against that, and especially in the United States, as well as, the geopolitical tension that exists around the world, including, in the transatlantic relationship, and the fact that many CEOs now feel like they have to effectively act as like geopolitical actors, almost in the same way that heads of state would have historically only had to do. CEOs feel that they have to do similar. And so in a world where these things are occurring, and in a world where we're seeing more risk at the intersection of business and culture, the intersection of politics and business, the intersection of business and technology, the degree of risk that companies face, and the volume of threats that they face, and the ability for those threats to force multiply across the different risk areas, it's only greater than it's ever been. And so if you're a company and you want to get ahead of all of that, you need to be able to see around corners. You need to be proactive. And you need to do that through a combination of both expert advisors who can help you navigate that, but also through using technology in a way that previously was impossible. And that is what we do at Penta in a way that no one else can do. And, when I think about what that means in terms of our local connection, right? And we haven't talked about this, but, our roots in Ireland go back, right? We're Hume Brophy. We still have John Hume Jr. as a senior advisor, as well as Leo, right? Former Taoiseach. And we're really proud of our heritage here. And I think in this exact moment right now, with, as you said, kind of Dublin and Ireland becoming the center of European political universe for the next 6 months, right? I think it's going to create real opportunities for corporations and for our clients to be engaging here. And so both our heritage as Hume Brophy and then the kind of technological savvy that we bring to the table is why I think so many of our clients are coming to us with their most high stakes problems.
A couple of things that you mentioned there that I'd like to touch on. One, you expect high turnover of CEOs this year. Are CEOs almost having to become political actors then in the current climate? And how do you navigate that as a CEO? How do you advise your CEOs in navigating this? Because a lot of them will have very, finance backgrounds. So they're not politicians.
That's right. So this is a great question, and it's one that was at the most recent World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos hotly debated by CEOs. So there's definitely an increased expectation of the CEO to be a geopolitical actor in today's world. And the reason for that is not because most of them want to, it's because they have to, right? And they have to because things have gotten so much more political. And so if you're doing business, across multiple markets and you're not mindful of the macroeconomic and geopolitical context within which you're operating, right? One that in today's world is arguably more volatile than it's been in previous years. Then you're not doing your job as CEO. And so, Jamie Dimon is kind of like a famous example. He's the CEO of JP Morgan, who, he's effectively playing the role that some PMs, might have played in previous years. Many CEOs do this reluctantly because, to your point, they weren't trained for this. Right? If you say you went to business school, like there's no class in business school about corporate diplomacy. I mean, maybe nowadays there is, but certainly not historically. And so the idea of the CEO having to be a geopolitical actor is not something that most of them embrace willingly. They embrace because they need to. And many of them are not trained for it. And that was one of the kind of complaints that I was hearing from CEOs when I was in Davos, which is that, we have to do this, and we will, but we don't necessarily like it.
Can I ask, you've touched on it already, you were brought in to drive Penta's growth going forwards. How are you going about that, and what would you like Penta to look like in 5 years' time? Yes.
So, well, look, first, like I said, I think in the next 5 years there's going to be an enormous amount of change. And I think that that change, there's going to be some clear winners and losers as a result of that change. And I think that many of our clients, they're already worried that they are ill-equipped to deal with the change that is coming. And so they look to firms like ours to help them navigate and get out ahead of that change. And I think that the firms that are able to help them do that, like ours, are going to be the ones that succeed and the ones that can't won't. What success looks like in my mind is, one, I want Penta to be the first call for every single CEO or business leader in Ireland, in Europe, in the United States, around the world, when they are dealing with the highest stakes issue related to their reputation, related to their political agenda, policy agenda, related to their financial strategy. And I want to have, as a result of that, a team of people that can navigate the most high-stakes issues, help clients navigate the most high-stakes issues. And I want that team of people to be powered by the most sophisticated intelligence platform on the planet. And as part of that intelligence platform, I want to have an unrivaled AI spine where our AI is built in a way that is able to help companies see around corners, be proactive, navigate all of those issues before they even become issues, and do so in a way that's seamlessly integrated with the advisory business. And as a result of all of that, I'd love to more than double the size of the company. I'd love to expand our presence here locally even more. I'd love to expand our presence in Europe even more. I'd love to expand our presence outside the U.S. and other places even more. But my first priority in terms of expansion is going to probably be capital markets, building on the success we already have in regulatory capitals. Right. And so the two capital markets that we will be prioritizing first will be New York and London. And from there, we'll continue to drive more growth. It's funny hearing you talk about, dealing with clients and wanting them to come to you to navigate problems or come to you before they have a problem. From my side of the desk, I think we're calling you guys when we hear there's a problem. Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting to hear that side of things. Of course. Can you chat me through what kind of industries your clients are in at the moment? And, are there any common themes of advice that you're giving your CEOs at the moment? Yes. So I would say that the industries right now that we have the largest proportion of clients in are the more highly regulated ones. And those include financial services, energy, health, and technology. We have clients across all of the industry sectors beyond those two, but those are maybe a few examples. We typically will work for the largest tech companies, the largest healthcare companies, like the largest energy companies. Though we'll also work for more local options too, more local players too. I think when it comes to the type of work that we're doing for our clients, I think it breaks down into a couple different categories. So the largest one is helping influence policy, helping navigate politics. A few others include helping clients navigate either high stakes issues or in some cases crises related to litigation, related to cybersecurity, related to labor. I think many clients come to us to help enhance their corporate reputation. I know that many clients also come to us when they have a very high stakes issue that they need to build a comprehensive campaign around. And so, maybe you're calling them on the phone about, something that you're seeing happen out in the marketplace, and maybe they're desiring to build an entire coalition around a specific issue to influence both the policy agenda as well as the cultural agenda, as well as even a business agenda. Yeah.
Is it difficult at the moment helping clients navigate around political issues in the current climate?
Yes, and that's good. So, some people will see all of the challenge in the world, and they'll be pessimistic as a result of it. I see all of the challenge in the world, and I see opportunity as a result of it, right? Because the firm that's able to help clients navigate all of those challenges is which of course is Penta, is the firm that benefits as a result of all of that challenge. And so, in a world where there's arguably more risk, and where the risk can collide across different areas of risk, where there's arguably, where things are heightened in terms of political pressure, in terms of overall volatility, whether it's economic volatility or political volatility, this is a complex world, and one where where clients need obviously arguably more help than ever before. And certainly when you can bring solutions to the table for them that are both a combination of the way that more traditional advisory firms might do it, but then also power that by technology, data, and AI in a way that is unrivaled, that's when you can really make an impact. And there's nothing better than being able to make a material impact for your clients, or on behalf of your clients, which is what we always focus on.
You're here in Dublin as Ireland assumes EU presidency. Any thoughts, Jim, on relations between the EU and the US at the moment?
Well, certainly transatlantic relations are complicated in this environment. Some may say a bit strained. I think it'll be really interesting to see what the next six months bring. I'm delighted, frankly, that the EU presidency is now going to be here in Ireland. I think Ireland has just a unique place as kind of the U.S. Portal to Europe more broadly, and such a history of, frankly, of innovation and technology innovation too. And so it also happens to be with the 250th anniversary celebration, I believe, is today for the United States. So there seems to be a lot going on here, kind of the center of gravity right now, and a lot of center of gravity happening in Dublin, which is exciting.
To get back to your role, as you're only in it since May, I appreciate it's relatively new, but what does a typical day look like for you at the moment? Yeah,
well, right now a typical day looks like me being on the road. So, my first week in the role I spent in Washington. My second week I spent in New York. My third week I spent in the south of France at a industry event in Cannes. That was last week, and this week I'm here. So right now, what I'm really focused on doing is I'm really focused on spending time to get to know our teams, to get to know our clients, to meet with prospective clients, to talk to people like you about why I'm so excited to be at Penta and why I chose to come here. The other things that I'm very focused on is building a strategy to realize the vision that I've already shared with you about being kind of the most, technology-enabled, AI-native firm, full stop.
Do you think there's room for the business to grow in Ireland, grow its client base, grow personnel?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Ireland, is central to our heritage, and will continue to be central to our plans for the future.
How have you found moving from a larger company to a smaller private equity-backed firm, and why that decision?
It's been great. We're private equity backed. Shamrock Capital is our private equity, and they are great and have been really terrific to work with. They share my ambition, which is really exciting. I think the transition overall It's been excellent. I really have enjoyed it. There's an energy here, and there's there's so much demand from clients in a way where it's very what clients want is so much different than what clients wanted in the past. And the firms like Penta, those where if you were to literally just draw up what the firm of the future would look like on a piece of paper, you would draw Penta. The Penta is the building blocks for what you would draw, right? And that's really exciting and refreshing. I think there are other more legacy organizations that are just going to struggle given where the world is going and their inability to meet the new changing needs of clients.
And what is that biggest difference between what they want now and what they want in the past? Is it the data-driven insights?
Data-driven insights, technology-enabled teams, highly sophisticated and specialized senior advisors who are powered by the data insights and technology-enabled teams, all integrated in one place with the speed, scale, precision, ability to operate at real time, at kind of the speed of real time, proactively versus reactively, and all of these things together are oftentimes the reason why our clients choose us.
You touched on it briefly. You've got former taoiseach Leo Varadkar on the board of the company. Why is it important to have somebody like him on the board, and what does he bring to the group?
Yeah, he's great. I spent the day with him so far. He's such a compelling part of our team here. I think, look, as I said, in addition to all of the tool, tech, data, analytics, AI, everything on the tech side, you need to pair that with people who are operating at the highest levels of business and government. And that's why he's part of our team, because that's, of course, what he does. As much as I am a massive proponent of technological innovation, it is also equally clear to me that if it's not paired with, people who have judgment, instinct, creativity, networks, decades of experience navigating complex issues on their own, that it won't work in the same way. In the same way that if you only had the expertise minus the technology, it wouldn't work the same way. When you bring them together, it's not just like a 1 + 1 = 2, it's a force multiplying effect. So maybe it's like 1 + 1 = 4.
You mentioned there earlier that Penta had acquired Hume Brophy back in 2023. What was it that made you guys want to have a presence in the Irish market?
Yeah, well, so we were so I wasn't around then, of course. But speaking on behalf of Penta, we have always desired to bring on the best talent in the markets that we serve. And when we looked at the Irish market, when we looked at the European market, it was very clear to us that Hume Brophy was connected at the highest levels and had the same degree of ambition that we did, and the desire to embed the tech side into the work in a way that not every firm does. And so it was a clear choice for us.
Moving away from work, Jim, you're on the board of the Larry Children's Hospital in Chicago.
Yes.
What was behind that, can I ask, decision to go on the board there?
Yeah, sure. So, Larry's is like is one of the best hospitals in the United States. So I'm really proud to be on the foundation board there. My son is a patient of the hospital. He has a rare disease. It's called cystinosis, and it's a disease that he requires a lot of care for as a result of having. And so he was diagnosed at Larry's, at 1 year of age. He's doing great right now.
Good.
And so it was really important to me to play a bigger role in support of the hospital, given everything that the hospital had done for my family. And so in addition to that, I raised money for rare disease research. And I also have created a patient advocacy organization called the CP4C to that end too.
And he's doing well now?
He's doing great. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he's 10. Most people would never notice, despite the fact that he's got a severe rare disease. And so I credit, the hospital with and his team more broadly with a lot of that.
Good. And last question, Jim, what's the switch off? I mean, when you're not working, what is it?
Well, I don't know if there is a switch off. In the morning, I certainly like to go for get some exercise, whether it's a nice long run along the river like I did this morning here, or something along those lines. Though that may be considered more of a switch on than off. I guess maybe at the end of the day, a nice dinner with good company or my family could be a good switch off. But I don't really do too much switching off these days. So if I'm being honest, ask me again in a year. I'll come back in a year and then we'll see. But as of right now, there's not too much switching off.
We'll take this up again in 12 months' time. Jim,
brilliant.
Lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's been great. Take care.
Welcome back. Peter, I thought to get that, as I said in the intro, like to get that caliber of speaker, and I thought he was very open in terms of his approach. I mean, as you said, as we talked in the intro, this demand or desire to grow the business by, doubling it in size. But for me, the standout line was the turnover of chief executives that he referred to and how they're advising all of that, but also how some chief executives are now having to act like prime ministers, and they are seeing that having that level of power and influence on a world stage. To me, that was super, really, really interesting.
Yeah, and not only the fact that that's the case, but also it feels like that's the gap that a lot of CEOs actually see in their skill set. That, as Ellie, I think, says actually in the piece, a lot of CEOs would have come through the CFO route, that they would be more financial in terms of their background. And suddenly they find themselves in this era where everything, as he says, is political and geopolitical ramifications.
And they're not comfortable in this space.
They're not comfortable. So that's where they need a Penta, or they need, in an Irish context, a Leo Varadkar. Back to the thing we said at the start of, they need somebody who understands how the sausage is made, how policy formation happens, how regulation happens, and who can open doors to try and ameliorate whatever problems that they have, basically. So not only the fact that it is an overriding issue for CEOs, but also I got the sense it's where a lot of them feel like they have a weakness as well.
And a lot of them obviously fall down because he spoke about the number of chief executives changing. So obviously they're not meeting that new demand that these roles are placing on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the range. So like the geopolitical stuff hung over everything, but he mentions the range of issues that they deal with. Everything from labor issues to cyber attacks to policy formation to activist investors. I mean, it's a huge range of things that any organization, any CEO has to deal with. So you can see why these advisory firms and PR firms are so popular. I mean, even bringing it back to an Irish context, I don't have the numbers, but I feel like since, over the course of my career, there's been a proliferation of new PR firms. They only seem to get bigger, greater in number and grow in size as well.
And is that a byproduct of, I suppose, government and regulation becoming more complex? Is it the fact that you have, like you say, probably people who are very technically good at being a chief financial officer or being a good chief information officer, but don't have the requisite skill set to be that number one leader?
It's that, and journalists getting out of journalism.
Well, shame on them.
But yes, I think so. Like the world probably has become more complex. I mean, everything from workers' rights to environmental regulation to, we've had guests on this podcast over the last couple of weeks and months who say you could almost year by year or every 24 months, some big new shiny thing happens. So it's kind of AI now. It was ESG a couple of years ago. It was defense. Probably is still defense, infrastructure.
Now,
And so like to be able to move, you'd almost get yourself up to a relative degree of expertise on the topic of 2023, and then suddenly you're in 2024 and it has moved on. So I think with the pace of change and these big, it's like a perma crisis we've had as well since, you go back to the financial crash, Brexit, COVID, environmental issues, Ukraine. So I think that's where the PR and the advisors come in. They help plug some of those gaps quicker than I think an organization would be able to bring up their own capacity on it.
I think one of the most revealing aspects of the interview is when Ellie asked him about, the switch off. And, he kind of admitted in this job, there really isn't one. And one would wonder then about the staying power of how, at that level and that pace, how sustainable is that over a long period of time, particularly for someone who has a family and all that kind of stuff.
And somebody who sets themselves the target straight out the gap of doubling the size of the business. Yeah. So he's not giving himself any cushy targets to meet in the first year or so of his business. You could imagine the job of being this advisor is that you are at the beck and call of your clients.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think we see it again domestically with some of the PRs here that even very, very senior people at the top of the organizations, they are having to be super responsive at all sorts of unusual times.
Dealing with pesky queries from Sunday journalists.
Dealing with pesky, but I always have a degree of sympathy for PR people. They're stuck in the middle. They've got the client who might get onto them at any hour of the day or week. And then they've got us on the other side looking for answers as well. So it's a tough business in that sense, in that it's kind of incessant and, as you say, tough to switch off, I think.
Very good. Well, listen, that was our interview with Jim O'Leary of Penta Group, the global chief executive. A great get by Ellie Donnelly, our colleague here. But we'll have more and fascinating guests between now and the end of the summer for you to delve into. And I'm taking a little bit of a holiday, but I think we'll still be in good nick. We'll make sure that the podcast doesn't waver or what.
It'll survive without you.
Well, hopefully now.
Much lessened, of course.
Very good. Well, listen, until next time, from me, Daniel McConnell.
And me, Peter O'Dwyer.
Bye-bye for now.